war had raged for 3 standard months across the Altair Nebula, transforming what had once been a peaceful trading hub into a graveyard of twisted metal and frozen corpses. The Zelkari Dominion's invasion fleet, numbering over 200 vessels, had swept through the outer colonies with brutal efficiency, enslaving entire populations and stripping worlds bare of resources. Ambassador Kirith of the Altarian Republic watched helplessly from the bridge of her flagship Starlight's Hope as another refugee convoy exploded under concentrated plasma fire. Her once proud defense fleet had been reduced to fewer than 30 ships, most of them damaged beyond effective combat capability. The sleek silver vessels of her people, designed for exploration and peaceful trade, had never been meant for this kind of systematic slaughter. "Ambassador," reported Captain Valen, his voice heavy with exhaustion and barely contained despair, "that was the last civilian transport. The evacuation of Altair Prime is complete, but—" he paused, studying the tactical display with haunted eyes. "We've lost everything else." Through the main view screen, the Zelkari Armada spread across space like a plague of metallic locusts. Their ships were ugly, functional things, all sharp angles and weapon pods, built for conquest rather than elegance. Each vessel bristled with energy cannons, missile launchers, and boarding pods designed to capture rather than destroy. The Zelkari preferred their conquests alive and profitable. Admiral Thexmore, commanding the Zelkari invasion from his flagship Bone Harvest, watched the fleeing Altarian ships with the satisfaction of a predator cornering wounded prey. His species had evolved from pack hunters on a harsh world where only the strongest survived, and that philosophy had served them well in building their interstellar empire. "Begin final approach," he commanded, his translated voice carrying across the bridge with predatory anticipation. "I want the survivors intact for processing. Their technology will serve the Dominion well." But as the Zelkari fleet moved in for the killing blow, something impossible happened. Space itself seemed to tear open at the edge of the system, and through the dimensional rift came something that made every sensor array in the sector scream warnings. Ships. Hundreds of them. But these weren't the graceful artistic vessels of the known galactic civilizations. These were instruments of war, incarnate, angular, aggressive designs that seemed to cut through space itself with their mere presence. Each hull was dark gray, almost black, absorbing light rather than reflecting it. Their surfaces were broken only by the cold blue glow of massive engines and the ominous red targeting lasers that immediately began painting every Zelkari vessel. "What are those?" whispered Captain Valen, his tactical training struggling to process what the sensors were telling him. Ambassador Kirith felt a chill of recognition. The geometric patterns, the aggressive aesthetics, the sheer overwhelming presence of military. Might she had seen these ships only in classified intelligence reports. "Humans," she breathed. The lead vessel, a 2-kilometer-long behemoth that dwarfed even the largest Zelkari dreadnoughts, broadcast on all frequencies with a voice that carried the cold certainty of absolute authority. "This is Admiral Rebecca Cross of the Terran Expeditionary Fleet. You have exactly 60 seconds to surrender unconditionally or be destroyed. This is your only warning." Admiral Thexmore's mandibles clicked in what passed for laughter among his species. 200 ships against maybe 300 humans. The odds were acceptable, especially since his intelligence reports suggested human technology was primitive compared to Zelkari energy weapons. "Humans," he growled into his communications array, "you are vastly outnumbered. Withdraw now, and we may allow some of you to serve as slaves rather than corpses." The response was immediate and unequivocal. 60 seconds expired. All ships, execute Order 77. What happened next would be studied in military academies across the galaxy for the next 1,000 years. The human fleet didn't charge forward in some dramatic assault. They didn't maneuver for tactical advantage or attempt complex flanking operations. They simply stopped, oriented their weapons toward the Zelkari Armada, and fired. The universe became light. Railgun rounds, accelerated to significant fractions of light speed, crossed the intervening space in microseconds. Each tungsten penetrator carried more kinetic energy than most planetary defense systems could generate in a full day. The Zelkari ships, designed to absorb and deflect energy weapons, had no defense against pure kinetic force delivered at relativistic velocities. The first salvo alone destroyed 67 Zelkari vessels. They didn't explode dramatically, they simply ceased to exist, converted instantly from organized matter into expanding clouds of superheated plasma and molecular debris. But the railguns were only the beginning. Fusion missiles followed, each one a miniature star that bloomed briefly in the darkness before fading to leave nothing but radiation and regret. Particle beam arrays, designed to strip matter apart at the atomic level, swept across entire formations of Zelkari ships like invisible scythes. The humans had brought weapons that the Zelkari military science had never even conceived of. Gravitational manipulation devices that crushed ships into singularities. Quantum disruptors that unraveled the fundamental forces holding matter together. Temporal acceleration fields that aged enemy vessels into scrap in seconds. Within 4 minutes, the largest invasion fleet the Zelkari Dominion had ever assembled was reduced to floating debris and cooling gas. 200 ships and nearly 500,000 crew members had been eliminated with the casual efficiency of someone swatting insects. Admiral Thexmore, in his final moments before his flagship's reactor containment failed, transmitted a desperate message to the Dominion homeworld: do not engage the humans. Repeat, DONOTENGAGETEEHUMANS. They are not prey. They are apex predators. The message dissolved into static as Bone Harvest became another expanding cloud in the graveyard the Altair system had become. Admiral Cross, watching the tactical display from the Bridge of Judgment Day, turned to her communications officer. Signal the Altarian fleet. The immediate threat has been neutralized. Medical and engineering support is en route. Ma'am, the officer replied, the Altarians are requesting permission to express their gratitude. Cross shook her head. Tell them, thanks aren't necessary. Humanity protects its friends. She paused, studying the debris field that had once been an invasion fleet. And we remember our enemies. The Zelkari Dominion would never threaten anyone again. Within the week, their homeworld would receive a simple message from Earth: unconditional surrender, or join your fleet. They chose surrender. Wisely. Across the galaxy, the word spread quickly through diplomatic channels and military networks alike. When humans arrived at a war zone, the war ended. Instantly, decisively, permanently. The age of human supremacy had begun, not through conquest, but through the simple demonstration that some forces in the universe were not to be challenged. Ever.